no, Jesse, these are not plants that are showing up at their town halls.
I never said that.
What's going on at DOGE is unacceptable. And are you kidding me? With these Medicaid cuts, Republicans are putting forward there will be $880 billion cut to Medicaid.
Let's watch one of the last remaining beacons of hope on Fox News, liberal Jessica Tarlov, as she sounds off on her MAGA co-hosts for their attempts to do propaganda surrounding the Trump administration. So buckle in, be sure to like the video, that helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't, and let's jump right in.
I understand that these city councils are going to have to look at the sanctuary laws in order to allow ICE into the prisons, because the reason the laws were designed this way was so that they couldn't pick up people who haven't had their day in court yet, that you have to actually be convicted of the crime versus just arrested for the crime and being held until you get your day in court. And there are even some people on the left who are saying, sorry, like, you should be allowed in. That's what Eric Adams is essentially saying. He wants to be able to open up Rikers to ICE as part of this little quid pro quo that perhaps he's engaging in order
I didn't know
to
there were actual sanctuary laws.
Yes.
Actual
they're
laws.
approved.
That's what happened. And that's why Eric Adams is having a hard time.
These laws exist for a reason, and it's because all people in America have rights. As much as MAGA and Trump don't want that to be true for brown people, this includes undocumented immigrants, like the right to due process, for instance, that pesky little Fifth Amendment. I mean, the 14th Amendment as well. The Constitution is pretty clear in its call for this for all persons in this country. It's another example of how MAGA is willing to toss the Constitution aside when it doesn't benefit them or their positions, showing how inherently anti-American they truly are. Their goal is to just deport immigrants off the basis of just being accused of a crime. This is the same tool that was weaponized against black people with accusations of sexual assault and things back in the Jim Crow days. They want to patrol prisons and just deport those awaiting trial who haven't received their constitutionally guaranteed due process. This is a gross overstep of these people's rights, as again, never had their day in court to proclaim their innocence. What if they were wrongfully accused and we deport them for nothing? It opens the door to bigots just accusing immigrants of crimes as a means to just remove or even control them, as, you know, comply or I'll lie, right?
You would know that what Elon Musk did, this directive, was a good approach to it if everyone had gone along with it. But you saw all of these Trump cabinet appointees who instructed their bureaucracies not to respond. Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the State Department all said, don't worry, if you saw that email, don't say anything. So if it is going to save America, why don't the rest of the people that Donald Trump loves think that it's a good idea?
What it is, because they've already walked this back and said, well, you don't have to do it, or well, we'll send another, and now you have a second. Like, it's just putting more obstacles to normalize the illusion that these mass layoffs are somehow justified because the people making $50,000 from the government need to answer to the person making billions, but the person making billions answers to no one. That makes sense. These are real people whose real livelihoods are going to be affected. Those who fall in line with Trump and his agenda don't have to worry. It's about those who ideologically disagree with Trump. We've seen this in the agencies Jessica mentioned. They're all fine, even though they're openly saying we're not going to do it. The goal is, again, forcing compliance so the government becomes a tool that works for the president, under the president, rather than for the people under the Constitution. For instance, if this whole thing is about government efficiency and a balanced budget, you'd obviously want to increase government revenue, right? So it would be obvious to extend the Inflation Reduction Act's provisions that enabled the IRS to go after wealthy tax dodgers in the top 10%. That would have brought projected almost $1 trillion in the next decade. It would have brought hundreds of billions in this year. But instead, Trump fired them so him and his wealthy crony buddies can keep on dodging taxes, because it was never about draining the swamp. It was never about cutting fraud. If you think Medicare and Social Security are the swamp, you have brain rot. Trump is the swamp. Musk is the swamp. This entire thing is about enabling the swamp and doing fraud.
What really matters in all of this, and the Democrats are hammering it, is that in the bill that the Republicans are putting forward, there will be $880 billion cut to Medicaid. And you see Republicans all over the country. And no, Jesse, these are not plants that are showing up at their town halls.
I never said that.
But you were
You're
thinking
about
that.
to.
Okay, so I headed you off. They were actually people who worked at the CDC in Rich McCormick's district. But people are showing up in Oklahoma, in Arkansas,
Democrats.
Pennsylvania, Missouri, Wisconsin, and they're saying what's going on at DOGE is unacceptable. And are you kidding me with these Medicaid cuts?
Now
Well,
you guys
you're
listen
doing
to the voters.
trillions of
Okay.
dollars.
It's like the first
We're
time you listen
trying.
to the voters.
Important context here is that $880 billion is also the entirety of the federal Medicaid budget, so they're looking to gut it entirely on the federal level at least. Medicaid, which provides healthcare to low-income individuals, around 80 million total, funds 41% of births in this country, 50% of special needs children are covered on Medicaid, all long-term care for seniors virtually is covered through Medicaid, and around 40% of all children, period, in this country. This is why MAGA is, in terms of the voters, the real ones, I shouldn't say MAGA because MAGA implies the cult, the right-leaning voters who they're starting to realize, hey, we've been duped, we've been lied to, right? We're not wealthy enough to benefit from massive Medicaid cuts to fund tax cuts because the things that Trump is doing will affect their everyday lives. Tax cuts do not, especially not for the demographic that is relying on things like Medicaid and Social Security. But Trump doesn't care because his agenda is clear and it's one that focuses from the top down, unlike the Democrats who focus from the middle out.